Hello and welcome to this module where we are going to discuss the concept of baselines. As we continue to progress with our project plan, we start updating information on the project plan, and it can change quite significantly from the first version of the plan that we had. A baseline is basically a copy that you make of your plan for future reference. So in other words, it's like you are taking a photo, a snapshot of a project at a certain stage so that you can be able to compare with the plan when you start updating it with the actual data. In MS Project, when we start entering the actual data, things like start date, finish date, and durations of various tasks, the program will now change those values that we had put on the plan. So meaning that your plan is now changing to reflect when you actually started a particular task or when you actually completed that task. So by the time you are 2 months into the plan, it is now showing different values from the ones that were in the original plan. So that is why we need to save a baseline so that we can have something to compare our actual values with. When you save a baseline, MS Project takes a snapshot of the existing values and it saves it inside your project plan. So in other words, your baseline is not a separate file, it is actually saved inside the same project plan. In order to get a good baseline, you should only save baselines when you have developed the plan as fully as possible. Because if you are going to be comparing activities and resources, then it means the baseline with which you are comparing should have all the tasks and all the activities that you are going to be recording during the course of the project. And you also need to save this baseline before you start entering the actual values, because the moment you enter an actual value which is different from the plan, it already alters the plan. Also, you can save a baseline if you are intending to save other baselines after that. This is because in MS Project, it allows you to save up to 11 baselines per project plan. So the first one will simply be called baseline, and then from then onwards, you've got baseline 1 up to baseline 10. Having many baselines is useful, especially for projects with long planning phases, because at times you develop your plan for a few months, you get to a certain stage, you save the baseline at that stage. Then you develop again, save another baseline. So you are having a number of different snapshots to which you can always roll back. If, for example, you mess up your plan later on, before you start executing, and you want to go back to a previous version of the plan. Once you start entering the actual values, there is a variance table which can show you for each task the scheduled value versus the baseline values. So it shows them side by side for easy comparison. What we are going to do now is to go and save the first baseline in our project plan. For us to save a baseline, we need to go to the Project tab, and then under the Project tab, you look for the Schedule group. And then on the Schedule group, you open Set Baseline, and then you set the baseline. So you can see that there's also clear baseline, which means that if you had some baselines that you wanted to delete, you also come the same route. So in this case, we want to set a new baseline. So for now, we are starting with just baseline. So next we want to define what the baseline is for. Is it for the entire project or is it for selected tasks? So if you want it for selected tasks, then you will see that these fields become active. Roll up baseline to all summary tasks from subtasks into selected summary tasks. Then you can set as default these current settings, meaning that if I click set as default, every time I come to save the baseline, it will start by giving this setup. But for now, we would like to save the entire project as the baseline. Then we say OK. So the baseline is actually saved. If we work and we develop the plan further and would like to save the baseline again without replacing this one, then we go back to the project under schedule, set baseline. This time we now call it baseline 1, because if you simply save it as baseline, it overrides the one that is there now. But if you want another copy, you have to make it baseline 1. So for now, I do not intend to do anything. So I could either cancel or say OK, which will then ask you if you want to overwrite the existing baseline. You can see that in our Gantt chart, we are seeing the bars for the actual plan. If we wanted to display the baseline bars also in the Gantt chart view, what we do is we go to the Format tab. And then under the Format tab, you look for bar styles. And then select the baseline. So you click on this down arrow on the baseline, and then you choose the baseline that you'd like to display. So it's Format, then bar styles, and then you select the baseline. You can see now that it's showing a darker bar adjacent to my actual plan. At the moment, they both look exactly the same. Why? Because I just saved my baseline. So my plan is still exactly the same as my baseline. But the moment that we start entering actuals, if there is any difference between my actual and the baseline, then you will see also the difference on the bars as well. So this is the way of seeing the difference graphically. But if you wanted to see it on the variance table, you would go to View, and then you look for Task Views. Under Task Views, there is Other Views. So there is a drop down on Other Views. Then we look for the Task Sheet. So now we are displaying the task sheet. And from here, we would like now to go and choose the type of data table. So you go to the View tab, and then under Data, we go to Tables. Remember, we came here when we're looking at the costs of the resources that we had assigned, where we were looking at the resource assignment as well as the task usage views. So under Tables, now we want to select the variance table. The variance table. So now this is the variance table. So the variance table gives you each task, then it shows the actual start date, actual finish date, then the baseline start and the baseline finish. Then you get the start variance and the finish variance. So in other words, the start variance is the difference between the planned start date in your baseline and the actual start date. And your finish variance is the difference between the actual finish date and the planned finish date in your baseline. So let me take you back again to the Gantt chart so that we navigate back here. So we said on the views, we want task views, and then we select other views so that we get the task sheet. And once we are in the task sheet, we now want to get the variance table under views, and then from the data group we open the tables and then select the variance. So this is how we get to this variance table. So these are the two ways of seeing your differences. So for now, the variance is 0 on all the items because, as I explained earlier on, we have not made any changes since we saved our baseline. All right, go back to the Gantt chart view. So this is going to be very important in the next module because we are now going to talk about tracking the project plan. And tracking simply means tracking. In other words, following behind exactly what is happening in the project. So we see you in the next module.